Hi, everyone. This is our panel for the North Texas LGBTQ Wedding Network. This is our 2021. We try to do it every year, and we have some amazing couples with us. And we're going to start off with India and Allison. So go ahead, tell us when you are getting married. If you already married, state that, because COVID happened. So I know everybody got backyard styled weddings. And then, of course, we'll go to the next.
Hi, my name is India, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And this is my wife, Allison.
Hi there. Let's see, we were originally scheduled to get married December 19th of 2020, but COVID happened. So we ended up doing a little backyard elopement thing on December 18th and postponed because my lovely bride here, her entire family is actually out of state in places that couldn't come. So we are going to now get married at Doveridge Vineyard on December 18th, 2021.
Hopefully.
We will. It is happening.
Yes.
I love it. So we're going to go to Emily.
Hi.
Go for it.
My name is Emily, and this is my bride, Molly.
Yes, your wife now.
Oh, wife. Yeah, both.
We got married March 20th, 2021. Sorry if you hear our dogs in the background. Yeah, so we were engaged for a month and a half, a month and a half-ish. We had already planned part of it, and then COVID hit, and then we had to toy with are we going to do it, are we not? And so we just decided to go for it and had our wedding the end of March 20th.
Perfect. Love it. So next, Libby.
I'm Libby, and this is Melissa, and we are scheduled to have in November of 2021. We had always planned to have it this year in 2021, luckily. So when COVID happened, it kind of, we felt really bad for all of the brides and everybody that was getting married, brides and grooms, just all inclusive. But 2020 seems to be a little bit better, and hopefully by the end of this year, whenever we have ours planned, everything will be still good to go. So fingers crossed.
Okay. I mean, with everything happening, I feel like it should be better than it was 2020. Obviously, it's like, Voldemort, thou shalt not be named kind of situation. So, like 2020 can just go away forever. Of course, this is something that no couple obviously expects, to potentially plan a wedding during a pandemic, have to go through the process of changing things. With the wedding planning process, was your venue very sweet about moving your date if that was the case?
So our venue is Doveridge Vineyard out in Weatherford, and Janan, who owns the venue, has been nothing but wonderful. We felt very lucky that all of our vendors were super accommodating and helping us move everything to this upcoming December. So yes.
Perfect.
We never moved ours. It was a little different because we actually we got engaged in the beginning of COVID, like before they even knew it was, sorry, dog accident. Before we even, right when COVID kind of became COVID is when we were engaged. And so we found our location while it was still under construction. It wasn't even done yet. We were one of the first people to book there. In fact, they were supposed to have their first weddings in May. And so, obviously 2020 in May, those weren't happening, but it was an odd experience going to bridal shows and things like that during COVID. It was strange, right? Like we haven't done our hair and makeup stuff yet because it was virtual. We didn't meet our officiant face to face. A lot of things were all done via Zoom. So, but all of our vendors have been very accommodating in this new MO of operating like this.
Right.
So our venue was Brick Venue in Fort Worth. And we stuck with our date. We booked with them in January of 2020 before COVID hit. And I know that they shut down just like the whole state did. And they were very sad about it. They did email us, but we decided to keep our date. And so we didn't really have to change too much. Our vendors obviously kind of were like, hey, is this still a thing? Are we still doing this on that date? And we just kept saying yes. The only things that we had to change a little bit, we did have their temperatures taken at the door, which was optional with Brick. They said you can say no, you can do it if you want. We had to have masks, obviously, hand sanitizer stations, but really, as far as the venue goes, they were very accommodating, and they were keeping up with the Texas state laws and what they would be allowed to do and what they wouldn't. So
Yeah, and with the Brick being strictly in Fort Worth, they also had a lot of things to really consider compared to the venues that are out in the, in the county area.
Yeah.
The Springs, or
Yeah.
anything along those lines.
Well, and the Brick also is mainly an indoor, so it was a little bit harder, like for our officiant, it was hard for us to find one, because the churches had like rules against the amount of people you could have if it was indoors. If it was indoors, windows had to be open, and so it took a little bit of researching to find the availability of people that would allow that amount. So
Well, sounds like obviously we have some amazing vendors. I know some vendors were not lenient depending on the availability of the new date. So that makes me happy that everything worked out for everyone here. During the wedding planning process, whether you got it, before COVID or during COVID kind of situation, what was the first vendor that you got? Or let me rephrase that. What are the top 3 first vendors that you got? So India?
The first vendor that we got was actually our venue, Dove Ridge. Then we got a wedding planner. And then we did a very long, arduous search for our photographer. Those were our first 3.
Perfect.
So, oh, sorry. Was I supposed to go?
Yeah, you're good. On mine, it shows that like you're next, then it goes up too. So you're good.
Our first one that we booked was our photographer. And then our second was the venue. And then third, I think, was our florist, just because I knew the person. So
perfect. And then
ours was definitely a vendor. We're at the venue. Yeah, we chose Bella Cavalli Events and Aubrey, and I think after that was our photographer. Yep. Which was the Borough out of Denton, and then
I don't remember the third.
might have been the food, which is 5-star out of McKinney.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah,
the 3 most expensive. I think that's how we ended up doing that, and then everything kind of fell after that.
Hey, I mean, everybody has different priorities. I mean, one of my couples was like the DJ was the most important thing, so that was one of the top 3 that they got. So I'm a foodie. I love 5-star McKinney. They are delicious. So wish I was there for that. So I love it. During the wedding planning process, I know everybody here joined the group at different times. Did you feel that potentially having the group help your wedding planning process? Or did it just kind of, you already had everybody you wanted and then it didn't really matter, like essentially in the group? It was just more insight.
So I actually posted in a different Facebook group looking for an LGBTQ friendly vendor and couples group because I was looking for community and vendors. And Chevy answered my post, and then I kind of incentivized people to do it. And by the time we actually joined the group, Allison and I already had our vendors, but it really was wonderful to meet awesome people and have community. But I did not find any of my vendors through the group.
Yeah.
But I think it was timing more than anything.
It's great to see how much it's grown.
Yeah, I mean, it was like 5 people when I joined.
So I didn't find any of my vendors through the group either. However, I really liked the camaraderie, and if I had a question or was scared to ask or anything like that, like I knew that I could come to this group and reach out and at least get support. It maybe not an answer, but I could at least get support, and just kind of like vent a little bit, I guess.
It was cool to know that, like, to see other people in the same process that we were. So yeah, the group setting, I think, was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We found a ton of our vendors here.
Yeah.
Not the venue, but our officiant,
Hmm.
our cake,
Yeah.
our first wedding planner.
Yeah.
We moved on. That's a whole other conversation. Our florist, our photographer.
Yeah.
Yeah, we found quite a bit of our vendors through the site. Yeah.
Perfect. That makes me even, because like India said, she was kind of like right at the beginning, so she's seen it grown tremendously. Like it's crazy. And to have you guys be a part of it, like it just makes me even happier that you were able to find vendors or the camaraderie or whatever your heart desired and what you needed, especially during the wedding planning part. Because let's be honest, it's not easy. It's stressful. Like there's a lot of things that go into it, and hitting on the stressful part of it when you were gathering your vendors before getting in the group for those, for the couples here that got their vendors before being in the group in general. Did you come across any unfriendly vendors? You don't have to give the business names or anything like that, but did you ever come across anybody that you had a potentially bad experience with?
So no, but I also did very thorough screening ahead of time. Yeah, we did. I think there was only one vendor who I was a little bit nervous about talking to because they were very vocal about their religious choice on their business page, but they ended up being super lovely. But I did come up with a very long, extensive questions to interview the vendors. It would have been a lot easier if I had a group like this to help me out, because they're already pre-vetted before getting into the group.
But we did use, the Knot and Zola and things like that, and tried to narrow down folks that had a history of being inclusive.
Yeah, we also used Equally Wed, which not a lot of couples knew about, interestingly enough. But yes.
Perfect.
We didn't have any issues with our vendors. I was open and would ask immediately. It was probably one of the first or second questions, just like, hey, this is going on. Is this cool? But no, I think that I feel like the more open and honest you are with yourself and with what you're looking for, they're going to reflect that honesty back. And so I think that we didn't have a problem.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that was kind of close to a problem was when I was getting my suit, because they were typically a men's place. And I mean, they had said that they had done women before, but I don't think that they were fully prepared to make a suit for a woman. So that was probably the only thing, but they were accommodating and they were nice about it. No, I didn't feel like any discrimination or hate or anything. So it was just, they just didn't know what to do. But yeah, other than that, everybody else was pretty easygoing.
So like Melissa said, we got most of our vendors through the group anyways, but I remember seeing people had posted in the group just how, they were dealing with a vendor and then the vendor said, no, we can't. So that they would come on the group and ask, hey, does anybody recommend any other vendors? So that was really nice to see that, well, that part wasn't nice to see, but to see that other people would step up and say, hey, why don't you use ours? We had a really good experience with this vendor, offer up other options for people. So that was really good to see.
I think also at the bridal shows that you'd go to, there'd be a lot of options made, right? So we would show up together at a booth and they think we're best friends, or I'm her bridesmaid or she's my bridesmaid. And so we correct them because that's what you should do in a nice, respectful way. But there were some people that I felt were put off by that. There were others that I thought were like, oh yeah, cool, like no problem. But there were some that I just felt were not as evolved as I would have expected in 2021. So there was that experience, but definitely nothing in our group, obviously, because if you're there, you know what you're marketing to. But I mean, we haven't had any issues at all. Our officiant offered to walk her down the aisle. So I mean, we've had some cool experiences. Yeah.
I love that. And kind of going off of even we're going to say bridal expos, because let's be honest, that's what a lot of them are called. Unfortunately, they aren't gender neutral. They're not wedding expos. Some of them are. Granted, the Rainbow Wedding Network, is very gender neutral in that aspect of it. And I hope there's more expos like that to come in the future. But when you guys went to these events, whether they are open houses or expos, and you were talking with these vendors, did the vendors actually provide representation of LGBTQ couples? Was there something that actually made them stand apart that caught your eye, that you're like, yes, I want them?
So we only really went to, I think, one expo, and it was actually at our venue where they featured their top list folks that they like to recommend. And Jane Ann actually called it just a wedding expo. It wasn't even specific to brides or grooms. And when you went in there, you filled out a little info sheet, and it said Lovebird 1, Lovebird 2. So it took bride, groom completely out of the equation altogether. When we did our tour, which really drew us ultimately to them, it was like, hey, this is a suite. Whoever wants to use it is going to use it. There's the other suite. Whoever wants to use it is going to use it. And really took the gendered nature out of it altogether. When we were actually at that expo, some of the other vendors were very, very still gendered with bride, groom. Name 1, name 2. So India would go up and get something like, okay, and your groom's name? Like, no, Lovebird 2, Lovebird 1. So it was nice for us with our venue to be able to make those suggestions to be more inclusive.
Yeah, and it really was the one out of many, but it really helped when trying to decide which venue we wanted to go with. Janan's presentation and consciousness of not calling it the groom and the bride suite when we're both standing there. Other venues that we toured, there were very gendered one or the other, and it really turned us off to that particular location. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I mean, because open houses or the preferred vendor list, the venue along the lines of what you guys attended, what y'all attended. I keep saying guys, that's not the right term. I need to correct myself. Y'all attended. That's how a lot of couples do find their vendors for that specific venue, because they have been to that venue multiple times. They know how the lay of the land is, all that, jazz. So it makes me happy that they decide, and I've been to y'all's venue before. It's gorgeous. It's amazing. And it makes me happy that, they made those little steps. Like, I know it's little things, but it means a lot.
Yeah. And I think the only other thing I will add is a couple of our vendors did not have inclusive language on their contracts. And when I asked them to change it to be inclusive to be the same sex couple. They're barking at the fence. When I asked them to change their contracts to be more inclusive, they were open to it and did it right away. So I was very impressed on the openness of our vendors, even though they didn't initially advertise that they were LGBTQ friendly.
Right, Molly.
So we found our photographer, just it popped up on an ad on Facebook, Darian Chui. He's great. And honestly, we fell in love with like his like style, but as we were going through his gallery, we did see a same-sex female couple, and that really is what we kind of was just like, yeah, let's email and let's do it. And then as far as the second place we booked, the venue, the Brick, when we told them, like, obviously we're looking at it and everything like that, they have albums to kind of show you the different sets, like how it can look and stuff like that. And they went straight to like the same sex, like she flipped through her pages to find that, which was nice.
It was comforting. I mean, yeah, you did have like a lot of the, and I think it's just their routine. So I mean, I do think that they're learning, and they are starting to like change a lot of their verbiage and things. Because when we did talk to Brick a couple times, they did refer to it as the groom suite, but
yeah,
I found myself often doing that too,
yes,
on accident. So
I feel like our vendors were kind of in the pre-stages of learning how to include LGBT. They weren't against it. Like I said, all of them were very for it. They were very excited for us. But you could tell that they're in a learning pattern too. I mean, so, but yeah.
I think to segue off that, like, I don't know, I feel like while the world's changing, there's still, I mean, we're in Texas, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like we do have to give people some grace. I mean, our venues in the country, I mean, we live in Aubrey, and our venues in Aubrey, about 15 minutes north of us. And, you know, they're a farming family, barrel racing family, ingrained in the rodeo. And, you know, we are probably the second same-sex couple to book there. We know that there was a younger female couple that got married there that they posted on Instagram. And so when they say, you know, the bridal suite and the groom's suite, like, I'm not offended. Like, I know that that's just a learning curve. And I think, you know, 20 years from now we'll be there, but it doesn't put me off so much because Joni, who owns the property, has been so great to us. Yeah. She was warm. She wasn't surprised. She wasn't like she didn't stumble. But, you know, we were at a show in Las Colinas, I think a bridal show in Las Colinas, and there was one or two bridal or what are they called, wedding planners that had rainbow pins on, kind of low key letting you know, hey, we're welcoming, and you know, we'll be happy to work with you. So there was some actually overt advertisement of being inclusive, which surprised me. I mean, this is not our first rodeo. We've both been married before, and I've been to shows before, and I don't remember seeing that 10 years ago. So I think you're going to see incremental change, and and especially if people are receptive to you pointing out, hey, can you change this? And they're doing it. Like, I don't even think they realize it. And then someone brings it to their attention because someone raises their hand and go, hey. And I think you're going to see, you know, again, that incremental change, because it's a bigger and bigger segment of the market that they are having to accommodate. So, yeah.
No, I mean, that covers a good chunk of everything. I mean, of course, contracts are always a big thing, like everyone mentioned, you know, changing from bridegroom to groom or bride or lovebirds or anything along those lines to, you know, to show that little bit of inclusivity, you know, like that they care, they're happy. What happened? There we go. It's like I froze. I don't know what happened. And so going off of everything on that end, what are things that you would hope for future vendors who are booking LGBTQ couples? You know, what is the future that you would like for the vendors to have, in essence, of more acceptance, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I actually just answered this for another photographer in a different group, but I do think advertising on social media, not just for Pride Month, but continuously, is a huge, big plus. I hope to see more vendors use, especially if they're based out of North Texas, use the North Texas badge on their social media and or their websites. Having more than just a white heteronormative couple on their pictures, especially if they're a photographer. I want to see diversity not only in skin tone or their race or ethnicity, but also diverse couples, because not everyone identifies as groom or bride, etc. What else? Just being conscious with their inclusive language on the contract, or offering it even. I think those are the big ones, because a lot of people look for their vendors through social media because they want to see their work. So I think that's a big, powerful tool, and I'm hoping to see that in the future. But I'm with Melissa. I think we're going to see a lot of changes as the future progresses, and especially here in the South. And I'm hopeful for it. I don't know if you wanted to add to that.
No.
Okay.
I think I'm on the same page. Like, I think I would like to see just kind of those little details. I mean, it is something that you don't think about unless you're in it. And so like it's one of those things that, like, when you're like, obviously when we're reading the contract and stuff, we know, and it, you know, I think that normalcy, like bringing people to that just being the norm thing, is just having it happen like all the time, and people do making those little changes and stuff. So good for you guys for telling people, because that's awesome that you did.
I agree with the social media aspect.
Yeah, I think that's good too.
I think social media is huge. That's how everybody is finding anything. It's how you're researching. It's how you're shopping. It's how it's all over. And so, yeah, I agree with the different skin tones and the different couples and different sizes and shapes and all that kind of stuff. And if they could do that more often, and if they felt comfortable doing that more often, that would be nice. I know that our photographer, like I said, we loved our photographer, and he is more of like an art type based photographer. And so he enters his photos into all these competitions and stuff. And he has already said that he wants to enter one of our photos in that. And I was like, yes, like we need same sex, like in competitions that they can see it throughout and throughout different states and everything like that. So social media for sure.
I think I would also like to see maybe more like religious, like officiants or venues or stuff being open about being open, I guess, and accepting, because sometimes you don't, like, if you hear that a venue or an officiant is pretty religious, you just don't know how to like approach that. And I think that it would be great to know, like, I mean, we my wife is Methodist. She grew up in the Methodist church. I know that there's a big rift in that, and so that was kind of you know, who do we talk to somebody about like that? But we also know that the Methodist church down on Oaklawn is one of the ones that was super open to us during Pride, like back in the years. And so like, it's knowing that that is an option, and knowing that they're accepting and stuff, I think would be super helpful and awesome.
Yep.
I was just going to say the same thing. I just think if more vendors or officiants, you know, would be more open to it and put it out there more. I feel like at the wedding, when you go to those wedding shows, if more people would just be like the ones that we saw that had the pins on them, you know, that drew us to those people. The people that didn't have it, yeah, they would try to talk to us, and then, you know, they would maybe be surprised that we were the ones getting married to each other, you know. But I feel like sometimes maybe even the vendors are afraid to put it out there, because they're afraid they might be pushing other people away. But if they're still open to having same-sex couples, you know, promote that. We've got to put it out there. I mean, it's just, I think that's a big step that needs to happen.
And then I think there's two other things. I think, and this will change over time too, but I mean, I've never seen statistics, but I'd be surprised if gay-owned vendors made up more than 10% of the industry. Like, there should be more people running these businesses that are photographers. I mean, we don't have a single gay vendor, I don't think.
No.
They're gay friendly, but they're not gay, right? And so, and I use the word gay and I mean the whole spectrum, but I think we understood, yeah. And the other thing is, you know, the education part, like kind of understanding from our perspective. We had to have a discussion with our photographer, who was extremely gay friendly, but it was very important to us that we had enough coverage so that I have a whole bridal suite, she has a whole bridal suite. And I wanted to make sure that they captured her from the minute she had her first stitch of makeup put on and her shoe put on, but also mine, right? And with a man and a woman getting married, the dude's like, I'm putting a shirt on. And I mean, they probably spend 10 minutes with a guy getting dressed. But I wanted to make sure, because we're two women, that we had somebody dedicated to us the whole day, because I'm not saying we're high maintenance, but we have more things to do, right? To get ready. And we have a whole team of people. So I think if there was that understanding, I mean, there's some uniqueness, you know, for everyone on this call who has gotten married probably. And I would imagine it's the same for two men. I mean, it is slightly different than your traditional man and woman getting married, and the cadence of how that day goes, right? So I think if they understood that kind of uniqueness about this situation, it would help as well, or at least ask the questions.
So of course, like my photography mind on like that end of it, you know, like, so basically whether it's a photographer, coordinator, or venue coordinator, you know, like, let's be honest, a lot of venues have their own day of coordinator for you, part of it, that they need to realize, you know, even though it's an 8-hour coverage day, you know, we need time management for both of us because of what I'm wearing wedding attire wise and what my, you know, partner is wearing. It's not going to be just a 15, okay, here's buttons, you know, and everything like a traditional couple would be. And I think a lot of people kind of forget that too, you know, and it's not like they forget to like, oh yeah, like it's just something that, oh yeah, I just kind of like, I need to think about it differently. And it's a whole different mindset, essentially. Other than that, is there like, this is pretty easy, pretty chill. This is how I love doing the conversations, you know, and stuff like that. If you guys had anything else if y'all wanted to add anything else, you know, to this conversation, definitely feel free to, because once, you know, we need to let other vendors know, and of course other couples in the group, of course, you know, like these are the things that I wished I asked questions of. These are the things that I wish I would have known. So feel free to fill in any gaps that you would like to before we wrap everything up.
Allison wants to know what Melissa Starr is drinking tonight.
So I know Allison in India because I run a national whiskey club. And so I actually drink during the week. You'd be surprised. I only drink and especially today is 6-month countdown to the wedding. So we try and that's why we're in workout clothes, because we literally can work out to this. But I'm not drinking anything. Maybe some water in a minute, but catch me on Saturday.
Water.
Yeah.
Cool. No, I think the only thing I was going to add for vendors in particular is learn and educate yourself around naming conventions. Although both Allison and I use she, her, hers pronouns, we don't both identify as brides. So I feel like I've had to educate all of our vendors on what that means and why. And it's a little bit exhausting if I have to do it, 14 times with all of my vendors. And also photographers really need to coordinate, like you were saying, with the wedding coordinator, especially when it comes to the timeline, because even though maybe Allison is wearing a suit and I'm wearing a dress, I still want her to have the same experience as I would have as a bride.
And reverse side of that with the photographer is, while I might be wearing a suit and we refer to myself as the broom just because I like puns, that I don't need to be in the traditional groom poses or always kissing her forehead or always sniffing her ear and saying funny things into it. I do that anyway, but just those traditional poses that are reserved to grooms and where the spotlight's always on the bride. It's like, well, we both are getting married and it's both of our days and we both want to feel special and also have pictures of me not sniffing her hair. So I think that's been an important thing that we've learned through doing engagement shoots. We did a wedding shoot, which is where we met Chevy, and then
yeah, and little things go a really long way. Like Alice is not wearing hers right now because she also just came back from working out, but we both have engagement rings. And so people immediately go, oh, India, let's look at the ring. And I go, not until you ask Allison first, because they assume because she's more masculine of center that she either doesn't have a ring or never got one. I don't know what the assumption is, but don't assume that I'm, just because I'm more feminine presenting, that I'm the bride and should get all the attention, when my wife and fiance is also a woman. So the assumptions, I think, and just get more educated on how to interact with us would be my best advice. And I do think if there's vendors out there who are tailors or are big box store owners of suits, you gotta bring those suits more affordable and learn how to tailor it to a woman's body. Holy moly, anyone out there who's interested in becoming a tailor for women,
you have a market.
You have a huge market because it's hard shopping for a suit.
1000% agree with that last point. Absolutely.
Yes.
And I think I saw that a bunch on the posts and stuff, is that it is very hard. And I went through, it was, like I said,
it was probably the most stressful part is her suit.
I mean, I honestly didn't get it until the Tuesday before we got married. So it was tough. And it's just their on education. So yeah, if you're a vendor and you want to take up tailoring for that, it's easy to buy just like a box suit. That's eventually what I did. And then we were super lucky to have a friend who is very adept at seems being
she's a
sewing
costume
and stuff.
designer.
She's a costume designer, so she helped me out a lot with all of that. But I mean, it would have been nice not to have to I didn't want her to feel like she had to take on that burden. We wanted her to be a part of the wedding. I didn't want her to feel like she had to do that. So yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's been a long day. Sorry.
Yes, as far as the suit stuff goes, my dress, veil, shoes, complete package cost less than her suit.
Yeah.
And it was you gotta just, she looked amazing, but it was definitely a little pricier than what we initially thought.
And everybody should get to look amazing. So
yes,
there's a market.
Well, and I was gonna say, you bring up the fact that y'all both want the pictures done and from start to finish, and I mean, definitely a second photographer is what we went with, and we both felt very special and very I felt like he got everything. Every time I talked to anybody in our friend group that came to the wedding and stuff, they were like, your photographer was all over the place. If he could have been hanging from the rafters, he would have been. So the fact that they were just that open was really cool. And the picture, I don't know, they were talking about drinking, so I feel like they should tell him the picture that he's expecting to put into the gallery or whatever is Emily savored a bottle of champagne on the roof, and he got a really cool shot of it. And so, yeah, it was really fun. But
I find, you know, India and Allison's comment about where the attention or focus should go. I mean, I experience that quite a bit with her. Like, there's a lot of focus on Libby when we go to shows and we go to meet with vendors. And don't get me wrong, I get it. I mean, that's where my focus is too. But it's, you know, we go shopping for, when we went shopping for our engagement rings, our wedding rings. You know, it was all about her. And I think initially, right? And so, you know, the photographer was pretty enamored with her too. And so it was just, it's a weird dynamic. It's sometimes awkward, right? Like it's a weird thing. And so I just kind of feel like they need to educate themselves a little bit, because they're making a lot of assumptions about gender roles. Yeah. I find it's probably harder for like India and Allison, because, you know, from a more androgynous perspective, I'm not androgynous, but I'm 5 inches taller and I'm 60 pounds heavier. And so, you know, and then there's this. And so I think there's just assumptions that, oh, that you're the dude and you're the girl. And it's a funny thing, you know?
Or they automatically assume too that she asked me.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case. I
No.
mean, so, you know, it's, you know, when I correct him every time, no, you know,
Yeah.
I'm the one that asked, and, you know, so
but it's a lot of assumptions. And yeah, I feel like we walk into places and the situation is just an assumption that, you know, there's these roles, right? We're both wearing dresses. We both have nails. I mean, we're very similar in that way, but I feel people are more comfortable assigning roles to people. That's how they make it make sense in their head, right? And I think, again, incrementally, we're going to see those types of things change. But, you know, I think that's something I'd like to see a little bit change. It's because it puts us in an awkward position where we have to then correct you. And I don't want to correct you. Yeah. Nor do I want to be there to be assumed to be some kind of slots that we fit in, right? And I will tell you, one of the things that I do appreciate was that our officiant, for example, asked us, are there any unique family dynamics that I need to be aware of at the wedding? And I thought that was a fantastic question, because, you know, a lot of gay couples have, you know, their parents may not be there because they're not on board. They, you know, family may not be there, or it may be awkward or strained, or who knows. We have a 3-year-old that's part of the wedding. And, you know, it's just, I feel like that's a very considerate question to ask, because it's a very common situation with same-sex couples, that there may be some strained relationships with, you know, especially family and parents, right? But I found that to be very considerate. That was one of our, that was our officiant, which we found through the group. Straight white man, you know, married to his wife for decades, and offered to walk her down the aisle. But I think there needs to be more of that kind of probing question to understand what's going on with your party, with your wedding party.
But I will say, at least on my end, I'm sure there's other photographers that probably do the same thing. And of course, I can only give the photographer aspect of it. I could never be a baker. I can't decorate worth anything. I can't be a coordinator to an extent, because I can't make all those hours like they can. I give props to them all the time. Like, but I know on my questionnaire, I have at the bottom of it, if you are having any family drama, please let me know, because let's be honest, a lot of families now have divorced parents. I have divorced parents. There's no way that my mom and my dad are going to be in the same room by any means. So, you know, like I, as the photographer, have to understand the family dynamic, and you let me know who's the most important, you know, kind of situation. I hope other photographers hopefully are doing that. You know, like I wish I could be the big photographer brain for everybody, but you know, like that's, at least from my experience, that's what I offer to my couples. And then of course, as it gets closer, I'll just confirm, is this still happening? What's the game plan? Oh no, everything's fine, everything's better. Like, okay, or like, no, I'm gonna need you as backup, like kind of situation. So I hope that other photographers and coordinators, whoever along those lines of that role is helping other couples, in that dilemma. Because it's not easy, like it breaks my heart that a lot of couples in the LGBTQ community doesn't actually have their blood, like family members, whether it's mom, whether it's dad, their sister that has been through everything with them. And then once they came out, everything changed, and it breaks my heart that that is not how everybody sees. I mean, I understand. It took my aunt a year to finally realize and recognize about my own cousin when she came out, that I just don't understand. I just don't understand, like, auntie, like, it's okay. Like, it would have broke my cousin's heart if she wasn't there, because that is her biggest role model, like, ever. So even, and I've told India this before, like, I can never be in y'all's shoes. Like, that is nothing that I can ever experience, but I can be on the outside and hopefully advocate for the things that you as couples see, and hopefully educate other vendors whenever it comes to these topics and these items, as it comes time and time again. So, like that.
You.
like that's my 2 cents. And I really like, and I, like, everybody will tell you, like, this is me, y'all, like crazy hair on a Sunday, baggy pants, it's whatever. So I mean, if you have any questions pertaining to anything, and of course other couples and vendors that are watching this, like, I want them to realize that all of these panels that I do are learning, like, whether it's for vendors, whether it's for couples, everything is a learning curve. And, Melissa, you said it, Texas is going to slowly get there. It's not going to be like 110% today, by no means. But the little steps that us as vendors are taking to help couples feel comfortable, that says a lot, for sure. So that basically wraps it up. Unless you guys have anything else that you guys want to talk about, I'm game for anything else that may have popped. Like, oh, here's this one too, like. But I mean, we've covered a lot, for sure. If you have any other questions pertaining to anything, of course, feel free to reach out. I'll contact as best as I can, like reaching back out to you. But final goodbyes, and then we'll close it all up.
Well, thank you so much for hosting this, and we look forward to helping either other couples and seeing other people's photos, whether you already got married or going to get married. So thank you.
Same.
Yeah, thank you. And this is great, and the group is awesome. So
I feel like I've learned more on this panel than I thought I was going to.
yeah, absolutely.
Like,
This
I
is
learned
awesome.
stuff and we're already married. So
Everybody on here is pretty cool.
yeah.
And congrats to everybody watching. Like, you're on the wedding group for a reason. So good. That's happy. It's awesome, and we're excited for everybody.
And coming from this lovebird that stressed out the most probably during the wedding planning process, I think, like, the week of, I took a vacation just to get stuff planned, and like, so many bad things happened. So many things kept happening, and I was just like, I was like, why are we doing this? Didn't we just elope? And then the day of truly is the best day of my life. So I would relive that day over and over again. I want to. So if you would have asked me a week before the wedding, should we do it? I would have told you no. But now I will say it is completely worth it.
I mean, I feel the only other thing I was gonna say is I think after the wedding, then you'd have to start doing the same kind of due diligence that you would do if you're planning a honeymoon, and making sure that, you know, you kind of ask the same kind of questions about where you're going. If you're doing like, I mean, we just tried to keep it. We wanted to spend our money in a place that we knew we would be okay, right? So while we wanted to do Maldives at first, we're like, after researching that a little bit, we're like, that kind of came off the list. So I think it behooves you to just make sure that wherever you go, you're going to feel safe, you're going to feel welcome. There's going to be some type of community there where it's inclusive. That was important to us, for us to spend our money in a place that had some respect for who we were and why we were there, and celebrating post-wedding. So we're happy about that.
Well, now I'm just curious, where are you going?
Going to Italy.
The plan is to go to Italy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Nice. Did you guys take a honeymoon?
We spent only a few days in Fredericksburg. So she is a beer and wine steward. And so it's like Texas wine country. And so we hung out there for a few days. Honestly, we were just tired. So we didn't.
It was nice to relax. I mean, we want to do like a trip that's kind of like the big honeymoon with
Eventually.
But I mean, honestly, just like 2 or 3 days to relax was enough. So I think if you're thinking of a big honeymoon or a small honeymoon, do what's best for you and do what you think is right. And I would definitely say that at least take 2 days, because you're going to need it
for rest.
Yeah.
Libby and Melissa, how long are you guys going to Italy, and where in Italy?
man, so we're gonna leave the day after the wedding, and I think we're flying into Venice first, and then we'll go to Florence from there, and then end in Rome, and it's a total of 14 days.
With a 3-year-old, it's one of those, you gotta take those trips while you can. So,
yeah, this is like our trip of a lifetime right now. So
we're doing it while we can, because we know that those days of 14 days by ourselves are far and few between. So
yeah, luckily one of my sisters is gonna watch our daughter, so yeah, we'll have the time. Yeah.
That's
Congrats,
awesome.
guys.
Congratulations. Yeah. Also, it's way cool that all of us have dogs. Can I just say, I'm like, yes, my people.
We're all frame, but you know.
Hey, my cat can be a dog if that counts for anything.
Good question. Does anybody here have a cat besides Chevy? That's hilarious.
It's okay. Like, I say my cat, but you know, it's fine. I claim the cat too.
We used to have a cat.
True. We used to have a cat, but not anymore. But it is like a
Running
thing.
joke?
Yeah, it's a running joke that lesbians always have cats, and then here we are, none of us have cats.
I'm allergic, so it's impossible.
Maybe this is like alternate universe. Like, didn't you know? Just like it's happening.
Dun, dun, dun.
I love it. Well, thank you everyone for being a part of this, and I can't wait to post this for everyone to see. But I can't wait. I just can't wait. You guys did amazing, answered all the things, and honesty is all that I've always wanted, you know, when it comes to these questions, and y'all did amazing on it. So thank you again from the bottom of my heart. And I'm sure I'll see y'all at some point. You know, I don't know when, but it always happens at some point. So
For sure. Bye.
Hi, everyone.
Bye. I don't know how to turn it off.